This SOS video is about geometric sequences and the fact that a formula can be written to find any term of a geometric sequence. So a geometric sequence is a list of numbers that has a pattern of multiplying a constant amount to a previous term, and that's how you create a new term. Common ratio, otherwise known as R, is the amount that's being multiplied to one term to create a consecutive term. An explicit formula is a function rule that describes a sequence and is used to find the value of any term. So as a reminder, geometric sequence, a list of terms where each term is created by multiplying the same amount to the previous term. So these terms here are showing a geometric sequence. To find the common ratio, or R, of a geometric sequence, you're going to take any term, except for the first term, divide it by the previous term, which is the term right before it. So for example, if I took -6 and I divided by 2, the previous term, I would get that the common ratio is -3. Well, what if I took -54? I need to divide it by the previous term, 18, and my common ratio is -3. Well, about 162, I divide it by -54, and my common ratio is -3. So no matter what term I pick in that sequence, as long as I divide it by the previous term, my common ratio will always be the same. An explicit formula can be used to find any term of the sequence. All we need for the explicit formula is the first term, a sub 1, and the common ratio, r. So our formula to find any term is we're going to take our first term and multiply it by the common ratio raised to the n-1 power. And your n is your place number, your position number. There are different ways to ask for the explicit formula. Sometimes you're asked to define a sequence explicitly. Sometimes you're asked to write an equation for the nth term of the sequence. And all those directions mean is that they want you to show the explicit formula. So let's try it in a few sequences. Here's our first sequence, and our explicit formula calls for two pieces of information. We need the first term, which is 490, and we need our common ratio. So to find the common ratio, you can take any term here, say pick 19.6, and I'm going to divide it by the previous term, 98. And once I do that, you can grab your calculator and set that up. Okay, let me put this over here. Clear this. And I have 19.6 divided by 98, and that gives me 0.2. Remember, before I write the explicit formula, let's try that on a few other terms. So I'm going to take another term, say 3.92. I'll divide it by the previous term, 19.6, and I get 0.2. Let's do that with one more pair of terms, 98 divided by 490, which is the previous term, and we get 0.2. So we know we have a common ratio of 0.2. And our formula to find any term, a sub n, will be our first term, 490, times our common ratio to the n-1 power. Well, what if I want to find the ninth term? I just told you that n equals 9. So I take our formula, and I want to find my ninth term. So that's 490 times my common ratio to the 9-1 power. So our ninth term is going to be, again, we get our calculator, 490 times our common ratio, 0.2, to the, so you're going to use your caret here to put it to that power. And 9 minus 1 is 8 to the 8th power. And this is our answer, 0.001254. And that's all you need to do to find any term of a geometric sequence. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is you're going to pause the video and you're going to try to write the explicit formula for this and find the 14th term. When you're finished, start the video again and see how you did. Okay, did you write your explicit formula correctly? So our first term is 0.26, and to find the common ratio, I took one number and I divided by the previous. But remember, we want to double check that to make sure it's really working for all the terms. So I'm going to take another term, 162.5, and divide by the previous term, 32.5. And I get 5 again. Let's try it with one more. 1.3 divided by 0.26. And I get 5 once more. So I know that my common ratio truly was 5. All right, let's find the 14th term. So we know n equals 14, which means when I look to find the 14th term, I'm going to replace n with 14. So 14 minus 1. Grab your calculator again. We have 0.26 times our common ratio of 5 to the 14 minus 1 is 13th power. And we get this long number, which ends up being 317,382,812 and 5/10. A lot of times we're going to see a geometric sequence in a number of scientific applications because we're used to working with very small numbers or very large numbers. So this SOS video has been about a geometric sequence and how you can write an explicit formula to find any term of the geometric sequence.